Yeah, well, sometimes on the way back he drops into his Auntie Doris. Or it could be his old mum, I'm never certain, you know.
I'll come again, Andy.
Eh?
I'll translate it for you later.
Yeah, I think... here comes the Chief Superintendent. Do you want to speak to the Chief Superintendent? Come on then.
Hello all, welcome back. Let's get straight into the action with the episode Hard Men. Sergeant Davy Freeth is down from Glasgow on an alleged kidnapping case. He meets fellow Scott Gibson by the Grand Union Canal at Ladbroke Grove to gain some info. When I lived in Camden, I used to run right under here on Sunday morning marathon training sessions, totally unaware of the episode filmed here. The roadway and bridge have, I think, been rebuilt and enlarged, but the basic view is still very recognisable. Gibson's smart enough to keep the canal between him and Davy and emerges through a fence opposite.
It's me.
The old buildings and corrugated iron, Sweeney bingo at one point, are long gone, replaced by new flats that sit right on the water's edge. On our side of the canal, this ramp up to Ladbroke Grove must be a more recent addition, as Davy has a wall behind him here. Gibson susses that Davy won't be alone, and Carter steps forward from the other side of Ladbroke Grove to Freeth.
Send him out into the open, Davy.
Loads of graffiti and a massive Sainsbury's are the obvious additions to this view. People say the 70s were grimy and run down, but the amount of junk and litter I used to see whilst out running doesn't paint the modern day much better if you ask me. We then get this superbly Oni-esque free shot under the bridge.
Now what is it you want, Davy?
Love it. Take a bow, cinematographer Norman G. Langley. Carter spies a reflection that proves Gibson isn't alone either. These pipes aren't visible today. An aerial view of the bridge shows what I presume to be modern expansion, and I suspect the pipes ran under here. The price for Gibson's info is his records.
You swing for it, Gibbs.
But Davy makes sure he pays a little extra for them.
Can I use a Freeth? Do you know that?
Aye.
In the background, that green footbridge takes the towpath over a basin inlet. I'm not sure what this little backwash area is for. Anyone who knows canal geography better than I do might be able to comment. Either way, it's still here today, collecting flotsam and jetsam and possibly the occasional Scottish villain. Who knows, maybe that's what they're for. To get a better view of the footbridge, I filmed this from up on Ladbroke Grove. Notice the row of pointed roofed warehouse units to the centre left of the shot. We'll be seeing them again in a bit. We'll move briefly now down to Canal Way, where Maggie, the little girl the Scottish heavies are after, flees the attempted kidnapping across waste ground and into an abandoned building. I did a lot of scanning maps etc, but found it really difficult to pinpoint this location exactly. Everything that was there has been demolished to make way for industrial units and the big Sainsbury's that now borders the canal. I suspect it was filmed somewhere near what now is Sainsbury's car park, and the view as was is long gone. The best match I could get here was by the sobering Ladbroke Grove Memorial, from where you can see the tall tower block that's in the background of the episode shot. We'll pay our respects and move on. We make a short hop over to West Row now, where Davy Freeth is chasing one of the kidnap gang into some abandoned industrial units. Looking roughly north, we can see the back of those pointy roofed units bordering the canal. The flats on the east side of the road as Davy ran into shot are mostly still as they were, a bit of double glazing aside. Across the road it's a very different story, with modern flats replacing all the old industrial buildings. Mick? Nah mate, he's a jock. Anyway, Davy wanders into this magnificent bit of urban dereliction and decay, but his quarry has given him the slip. I really don't ever get tired of seeing these now vanished scenes of crumbling abandoned buildings. There's a soul and character to them that you can almost feel that is sadly missing from much of the modern world. Still, I'm sure the atrium apartments are all very nice and whatnot. Another Sweeney bingo point here for some football graffiti, as Carter arrives on the scene and we learn our new Scottish word for Mr. Regan's lunchtime liaisons.
Nothing. Where's the inspector?
Meanwhile, Detective Constable Jellyneck displays his inimitable sartorial splendour in the background.
On the way back, he drops into his Auntie Doris. Or it could be his old mum, I'm never certain, you know.
We've seen that these buildings here haven't changed that much. The balconies on the left-hand building, however, have had their brick surroundings replaced by railings. Further to the left, at the end of the road, the building that was there in the 70s has been knocked down and replaced. Just round the corner, we have the preceding part of the chase as Freeth pursues Ross down Middle Road. In a lot of old London shots, I'm struck by how comparatively empty of cars the streets look, but there's plenty of motors parked up here. Today we see two common modern tropes. Trees have been planted and you ain't allowed to park nowhere. The chase we're following in reverse kicks off on East Road by Emsley Horniman's Pleasance Park. From the encounter at the canal, Freeth learns from Gibson that Ross, one of the suspected kidnappers, is using a public phone box there to conduct his business. These walls along the edge of the park here are virtually untouched from when the episode filmed, other than a bit of graffiti being covered up. Davey waits in the park to keep an eye on the phone box, hoping to spot the elusive Ross. The Pleasance Park, known to many as the traditional staging point for the Notting Hill Carnival, was gifted to the borough by a former MP and opened in 1914. These gates were locked when I filmed, and access to the park from this side is a little further back up the street. After my Clerkenwell segment last time, a number of people mentioned that the production used to carry a fake phone box on a truck so they could plonk it down when the scene required one, but no actual box was present. Thanks for that great bit of background info. Here we see none other than that same fake box that Vic Labbit used in Poppy, this time on the corner of East Road and Conlon Street. Inside the garden you can see there's been some modern landscaping done, adding plants and pergolas and so on. And here's the view back to where the phone box sat, next to the school fence opposite. When Davey answers the ringing phone, it turns out to be Carter pranking him in a ludicrous Scottish accent, but the call ends up having the desired effect of flushing Ross out of hiding. Ross spots Davey in the phone box and takes off down Conlon Street. Davey then pursues him through the streets we've just covered and into the abandoned warehouses. We've seen that this view across to the Pleasance Park and the one from the park back across to the school haven't changed dramatically over the years. Looking down Conlon Street, whilst some of the buildings look the same, a number of them, especially the ones at the end, do seem to have been knocked down and replaced. We'll leave the Ardmen now and move down to Southern Row, where in the opening scenes of Bait, Vic Tolmansberg and partner in crime, Lynn Hurst, drives past the Earl Derby pub. I think this is a 1960s Morris Mini Traveller Countryman, but someone please correct that if it's wrong. You can still see the ghost of the old Truman's signage here from the pub, which was named after an earl who fought in the Battle of Bosworth, since it also stands on Bosworth Road. Sadly, like so many pubs, it's long since closed. At the other end of Bosworth Road, and the other end of this episode, Vic drives Regan at gunpoint after the squad's attempt to apprehend Tolman has gone badly pear-shaped. As they turn into Kensal Road, we can see the Grade 2 listed former Cobden Working Men's Club and Institute, built in 1880. The background flats and the Our Lady of the Holy Souls Church are still there today. But as the camera pans round, you'll see that a modern building now blocks the view into Kensal Road. A squad car is in pursuit of Tolman. Here it turns past the building site on the corner where that new building now stands. Nowadays there's a lot more trees and bushes plus a playground blocking the view to where the cars approach the camera. That seems to be a common trend in the locations I film. Everything is much less open, so much more stuff crammed into the same spaces. On this shot I move round the corner where you can see that the Cobden Working Men's Club building is still standing over 140 years later. On Kensal Road, Regan puts Tolman off his guard.
How's it feel, Vic? Screwing the dike.
Taking his one chance, he turns the car violently to get the gun off his back, and they crashed to a halt on the north side of the road just past the Cobden building. It looks like the brutalist structure of Holmfield House on our left here has been built outwards since the episode filmed, as there's much less expanse of pavement now. The waste ground between the road and the canal where the car ends up is now the Meanwhile Gardens, a community oasis formed in the late 70s whose history makes an interesting read of its own. Round the other side of Holmfield House on Hazelwood Crescent we return to the opening scene where Lynn Hurst crashes her car. A van pulls into her path in the shadow of the famous Trellick Tower and she slams into its side. I'm a big fan of brutalist architecture and both of these fine slabs of concrete are happily still intact. A little detail I'd not noticed before. The Trellick sign used to be red but has worn down to white over the years. To finish up this video, we'll switch to the episode Faces and move to Swinbrook Road where one Mr Tober is looking to steal a motor for a job. Like all good villains, it's a jag that takes his fancy. I initially had some doubts with this location, as the episode shots all looked to be taken from a much longer street than present day Swinbrook Road. This was soon cleared up though by our handy old versus new map viewer. The road as was has indeed been truncated to make way for more housing. This modern view is from almost as far down the road as I could get. The buildings in the background on Golborne Road are a little cleaner now, but otherwise the same as they were. We'll move out onto Golborne Road now, where Tober's junk shop served as the operations base from which they planned heists to finance clients with, let's say, dubious political leanings. Well, I bet you got a belting fry up in that Venus snack bar, bread and butter and a nice mug of tea and all that. As you can see here, nowadays Golborne Road is all a bit cleaned up and catering to a different kind of clientele. Tober's junk shop does landscape gardens, and nothing against falafel, but give me a fried egg any day. The squad has the junk shop under Ovo, and here Regan encounters the mysterious figure known as the German. In the background we can see another old Truman's boozer, the Carnarvon Castle, which was a pub dating back to Victorian times. No surprises here, it's long gone, having called last orders in around 2011. It's been various brands of pizza restaurant and pop-up more recently. We move now to the corner of Bevington Road where, hold up, hang about, are we really leaving without even mentioning one of the most memorable scenes in the entire series? Would I do that to you? As if. Right then, everyone together on a count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, Sweeney!
Blinding. Since we're now inside the shop, you'll notice that the words "Inquire Next Door" painted on the glass match up in the exterior and interior shots. So they almost certainly did film this inside 97 Golborne Road, which means the original doorway would have been about here. We will move to Bevington Road now, where having had his presence rumbled by Tober, Carter legs it out the back of the shop and does what any self-respecting person would do, hides in the carsy. For obvious reasons I didn't point my camera too far in here, but this little public convenience tucked into the ground still serves those in need today. We'll finish up on Blagrove Road, and the scene prior to Tober almost catching George with his trousers down, so to speak. Tober and Evil Willie, another of the Germans' assembled gang, walk back from a nearby pub discussing the fact that the Sweeney are onto them.
They're the real heavy mob.
I fought the army, Tober, in the Emerald Isle.
Oh, you did?
Maybe I've even fought you.
No, Sonny. If you had, we'd have been doing business by the spiritualists.
Hands up who's surprised to see that the former Bevington Arms, a pub that was recorded operating before the turn of the 20th century, is now no more. It's currently a private podiatry clinic. The only thing that does surprise me in any way is that there's still been nothing built on this plot next door. Rare indeed in these days. And with that, it's time to wrap things up for this instalment. As ever, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.